Hello guys, today we're going to be solving this AWS Solutions Architect, kind of like a practice exam. Let's go ahead and try it out. I'll be talking about my thought process as I answer these questions. It looks like we got 30 minutes for about 15 questions, about 2 minutes each. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, there was an incident in production environment where the user's data was stored in Amazon S3 bucket and was accidentally deleted by a junior DevOps engineer. The issue was escalated to management, but after a few days, an instruction was given to improve the security and protection of AWS resources. What combination of the following options will protect S3 objects in a bucket from both accidental deletion and overriding? Okay, one could be disallow S3 delete using an IAM policy. Okay, I can see how that could work. Provide access to S3 data strictly through pre-assigned URLs only. I don't think that's gonna work. Cause yeah, enable versioning. I don't think intelligent tiering. That's just for storage. Enable versioning. Enable multi-factor authentication. Delete. Was accidentally deleted by a junior DevOps engineer. This kind of makes you just confirm if you want to delete it. I think versioning was probably it. I would say enable versioning and to disallow S3 delete. Oh, we don't get to know if it's correct or not. Okay, next. A solutions architect working for a startup is designing a high-performance HPC application which is publicly accessible for the customers. The startup founders want to mitigate distribution denial, so DDoS attacks to the applications. We go ahead and select two which are not suitable to be implemented, so not. Okay. Prevent. You want to prevent DDoS, okay. Use dedicated EC2 instances to ensure that each instance has the maximum performance possible. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. Use Amazon CloudFront service for distributing both static and dynamic content. This will work, but we don't want it to work, right? Use application load balancing with auto scaling group for your EC2 instances. Prevent direct internet traffic to your Amazon RDS database by deploying to a new private subnet. I think this will work, so that's why it's not the answer. Add multiple elastic fabric adapters to each. You want to increase network bandwidth? I feel like static and dynamic content. I think all three of these are the answer, but if I had to pick one to eliminate, I never heard of elastic fabric adapters before, but it seems like increasing network bandwidth. This is more about distributing. I'm gonna have to take this one out and say these two are the answer. How much time do we have left? Okay, 26, pretty good. We're on schedule. A payment processing company plans to mitigate its on-premise application to an Amazon EC2 instance. An IPv6 Cedar block is attached to the company's virtual private cloud. Strict policies mandate that the production VPC must only allow outbound communication over the IP6 between the instance and the internet, but should prevent the internet from, prevent internet from initiating inbound connection. The new architecture should allow traffic flow inspection. So you could have flow inspection and traffic filtering. Okay. Let's see. Launch the EC2 instance with egress only. Okay, let's see. So the production VPC, so our cloud could only have outbound. So I'm thinking NAT over between the instance and the internet, but should prevent internet from internet inbound. So it cannot that. Yeah. So NAT. Okay, so NAT gateway. Okay, launch an EC2 instance in a private subnet and attach an egress-only internet gateway to VPC and allow egress is this is outer in. I forgot. That's all right. Internet gateway to the VPC to allow outbound communication to the internet. Use AWS network firewall to set up the required rules for trafficking and inspection. I'm gonna say not this. Let's go move on to the next one. Okay, so this one says a NAT gateway. I already like this one a lot. Use firewall manager to set up required rules for traffic inspection. Okay, I feel like this might be the answer. Let's see, launch using a public subnet and attach internet gateway to the VPC. It says internet gateway. I want to say not this one. Let's go check out the fourth option. Launch the Amazon EC2 instance to a private subnet. Attach AWS private link interface endpoint to the VPC to control outbound IPv6 communication to the internet. I want to say NAT gateway. Launch Amazon EC2 instance in a private subnet. No, I want to say that. Okay. Next. A company is running a dashboard application on the Spot EC2 instance inside a private subnet. The dashboard is reachable via domain name that maps to the private IPv4 address of the instance network interface. A solutions architect needs to increase network availability by allowing the traffic to allowing the traffic flow to resume in another instance if the primary instance is terminated. So that's like fault tolerance. Is reachable via domain name that maps to the IP private. Availability by laptop and resume to another instance. Okay. Use AWS firewall to detach the instance primary elastic network interface and move it to a new instance upon failure. I think firewall is something else, so I'm going to say not this. Create a second elastic network interface and point its private IPv to the application's domain name. Attach a network's interface to the primary instance. If the instance goes down, move the secondary network interface to another instance. And it sounds alright. I'm going to put it like that. Attach an elastic IP address to the instance primary network interface, points to its IP address to the application's domain name. Automatically move the EIP to a secondary instance if the primary instance becomes unavailable during the AWS transit gateway. Next is to set up AWS transfer to FTPS service to implicit FTPS mode and automatic disabled. Check the instance primary elastic network and reassociate it to another instance. I'm not going to say this one. I think we should do this one. This is more for security. Yeah, I want to say this. Create a secondary elastic network interface and point its private IP address to the application's domain name. Attach the new network interface to the primary instance. Yeah, I think it's this one. A company is building an automation tool for generating custom reports on its AWS usage. The company must be able to programmatically access the forecast usage costs on specific services. Which of the following would meet the requirements with the least amount of operational overhead? Generate AWS budgets report for usage cost data and deliver them via simple queue service. That sounds pretty good. Utilize the downloadable AWS Cost Explorer report. So you kind of explore the cost. CSV also to access the cost related data, predict usage costs using AWS budgets. Okay, let's see. It's building an automation tool for generating custom reports on its, okay. To programming access to forecast usage on specific, so generating custom reports. I don't think we don't have to deliver them like that, right? Utilize downloadable Cost Explorer. Okay, actually that sounds pretty good. Use AWS Cost Explorer API with Pagination to programmatically retrieve the usage cost related data. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Look, Pagination. I think this is a bit long. I want to say this. I don't think we need to use SNS, right? That's for asynchronous. Fanning out. Use this with to program retrieve the usage cost related data. Yeah, I think this is it. A solutions architect created a new standard class Amazon S3 bucket to store financial reports that are not frequently accessed but should immediately be available when an auditor requests the reports. To save costs, the architect changed the storage class of the S3 bucket from standard to infrequent access storage class. So it's changed from Jan. Okay. Which of the following statements are true? Yeah. Is designed for data that requires rapid access? No, there's no way. It automatically moves data to the most cost-effective tier? No, it's not this. No, it's not this. I think it's this. A startup is building an IoT, Internet of Things, service by monitoring applications. They're using IoT sensors to monitor the traffic in real time by using Amazon Kinesis Stream. Okay, that is configured with default settings. It sends data to Amazon S bucket every 30 days. When you check the data on S3 on the third day, only the data for the last day is present, and no data is present from 2 days ago, which is most likely cause of this. The access of connection is insignificant. By default, the decorator. Yes, I think it's by default. Yeah. A solutions architect is working for a large global media company with multiple office locations around the world. The architect is instructed to build a system to distribute training videos to all its employees. Using Amazon CloudFront, what method would be used to serve content that is stored on Amazon S3 but not publicly accessible from S3 directly? I'm thinking bucket, but let's see. Oh yeah, I think this is good. Let's see. Create an S3 bucket that lists the CloudFront distribution. No target. Nah. Okay. Create an identity and access management IAM user for CloudFront and grant access to the objects in your S3 bucket to that. Okay, I guess this could work, but it's kind of for security stuff. No. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say this one. This one's like the standardized protocol. Okay. A GraphQL API hosted on Amazon EKS cluster with AWS Fargate launch site and deployed using AWS SAM. The API is connected to Amazon DynamoDB table with DynamoDB accelerator. Wow. As its data store. Both resources are hosted in the US East 1 region. The AWS IAM authenticator for Kubernetes is integrated using EKS cluster for the role-based access control and cluster authentication. A solutions architect must improve network security by preventing database calls from traversing. Okay, so we got to prevent database calls from traversing the public internet. An automatic cross-account backup for the DynamoDB is also required for long-term retention. So we have the backup for the table. Okay. Which of the following should the solutions architect implement to meet the requirement? So we have to improve network security and have an automated backup call. Create a DynamoDB interface endpoint, associate the endpoint to the appropriate route table, enable point-in-time recovery to restore the DynamoDB table in a particular point in time. I don't think it's this, because we're trying to improve network security and not make something fault tolerant. So another one would create a DynamoDB gateway endpoint, associate the endpoint to the appropriate route table, use AWS backup to automatically copy on-demand DynamoDB backups to another AWS account for disaster recovery. Okay, that sounds much better. Create a DynamoDB gateway endpoint. I think this is really good. Set a network access control NACL rule that allows outbound traffic to gateway endpoint. Use the built-in on-demand DynamoDB backups for cross-account recovery. I'm not sure why we would have to do this, because we're not going to do any outbound traffic, right? Okay, let's go check out the last one. So far, I'm thinking it's this. Create a DynamoDB interface point. Set up a stateless rule using AWS network firewall to control the outbound traffic. This does not sound good. Integrate the DynamoDB with Amazon TimeStream. Nah, I'm gonna have to go with this one. A company hosted a web application in an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances. The IT manager is concerned about the over-provisioning of the resources that can cause higher operating costs. A solutions architect has been instructed to create a cost-effective solution without affecting the performance of the application. Which dynamic scaling policy should be used to satisfy this requirement? Okay, let's see. A company hosted, so he's using an auto-scaling group with EC2, is concerned about over-provisioning the resources that cause higher operating costs. A solution architect has been instructed to create a cost-effective solution without affecting performance. Dynamic scaling policy, scheduled scaling, and we don't know about the schedule. Simple scaling, target tracking scaling. I want to know more information about this actually. So you just have to think of a dynamic scaling. Scheduled, no, it's not this. Not this. I want to think it's one of these. I want to say it's target tracking. One, two, three, four, 5 more questions and 10 more minutes. Yeah, we're on pace. A financial application consists of an auto-scaling group of Amazon EC2 instances, an application load balancer, a MySQL RDS instance to set up a multi-area zone deployment configuration to protect customers' confidential data, must be ensured that the Amazon RDS database is only accessible using an authentication token specified to the profile credentials of EC2 instances. Which of the following actions could be taken to meet this requirement? So the requirement is that to protect the data, it has to make sure that the database is only accessible using an authentication specific to the profile. Okay. Okay, configure SSL in your application to encrypt database connection to RDS. So, no, I don't think it's this. Create an IAM role, assign it to your EC2 instances, which will grant exclusive access to your RDS instance. Specific to the profile credentials of an EC2 instance. I think this one makes the most sense because it says EC2 instance, exclusive access. A company plans to implement a hybrid architecture. A dedicated connection needs to be created from the Amazon VPC to the on-premise network. So it's on-premise. The connection must provide high bandwidth, throughput, and consistent network experience than internet-based solutions. Which of the following can be used to create a private connection between the VPC and the company's on-premise network? I think we could use Direct Connect. No. Site to site. No. No, we don't need this. The media company that you're working for has a video transcoding application running on Amazon EC2. Each EC2 instance pulls a queue. So it pulls a queue to find out which video should be transcoded and then runs a transcoding process. If this process is interrupted, the video will be transcoded by another instance based on the queuing system. This application has a large backlog of videos which need to be transcoded. Your manager would like to reduce this backlog by adding more EC2 instances. However, these instances are only needed until the backlog is reduced. In this scenario, which type of Amazon EC2 instance is the most cost-effective type to use? I would say probably on demand. Reserved is like you want them for a long time. Dedicated, I'm not sure what any of these other ones is, but on demand is definitely what you need. Maybe spot. I don't know. Usually on demand's good. Spot. I want to kind of look this up, but spot. Let's go ahead and just look it up. Dedicated. Oh shit. I would say spot. It depends, man. Is it fault tolerant? Oh, if this process is interrupted, the video will be transcoded by another instance based on the queuing system. This application. Oh, yeah. I'll flag this for review. An e-commerce company runs a highly scalable web application that depends on Amazon or a database. Okay, depends on this. As the number of users increase, the read replicas face difficulties keeping up with the increasing read traffic, causing bottlenecks during peak periods. Which of the following will resolve the issue in the most cost-effective solution? Increase the size of the cluster? Probably not. Implement read scaling with a global database? I guess. Use automatically scaling for Aurora read replica using Aurora auto scaling? I guess. Set up a read replica that can operate across different regions. As the read replicas face difficulties keeping up with increasing read traffic. Implement read scaling. Use automatically scaling. Huh. These are very similar. Okay, let's see. Implement read scaling with Aurora global database. Use automatic scaling for our Aurora read replica. Well, global, does it have to be global? I think this one. This is global. Last question. A company is using Amazon VPC that has a block of, okay. That is connected to an on-premise data center. Okay. There was a requirement to create a Lambda function that will process massive amounts of cryptocurrency transactions every minute and store the results to Amazon EFS. After setting up the serverless architecture and connecting to the Lambda function to the VPC, the solutions architect noticed an increase in invocation errors with EC2 error types such as EC2 throttle expectation at certain times of the day. Okay, so it's connected to an on-premise data center. There was a requirement to create a Lambda function, okay, that will process massive amounts of cryptocurrency transactions every minute and store them into an EFS. After setting up the serverless architecture and connecting Lambda function to the VPC, the solutions architect noticed increase in invocation errors. With invocation errors such as throttle exceptions at certain times of the day. So what's a possible cause? The associated security group of your function does not allow outbound connections. Your Lambda function exceeds the VPC quota. Or available the attached IAM rule of your function does not have the necessary permissions to access. Throttle exception. I think this is one of them. I don't think it's this, right? Certain times of the day. I think these two. Because other of these have like permanent things, right? But at certain times of the day, if it has an issue, I would say these. I'm gonna say finish this quiz. All right, let's see what I got. 11 out of 15. Okay. Yeah, this actually makes sense. Because I was thinking it's like multi-factor authentication delete. Well, okay, let's see. Was accidentally deleted by a junior DevOps. Well, how do you actually delete? Actually, that would make sense, huh? Okay. Yeah. As solutions architect, you gotta use For working for a startup is designing an HPC. Yeah, use dedicated EC2 instances to ensure which has maximal performance. Okay. Wow. Wow, you're not supposed to use an ad gateway. This is interesting. This one is actually interesting. I'm gonna have to keep this one over here. I wanna get this one. That is interesting. Yeah, because you want to make a different interface. That makes sense. The dashboard is reachable via domain name that maps to a private IP or address. So you want to increase network availability. Yeah, creating a second one would make it fault tolerant. Other ones like this don't seem like it's using a different kind of fault tolerant, a different transfer rate when it fails. A company is building an automation tool for generating custom reports on AWS usage. The company must be able to programmatically access and forecast usage costs on specific services. Which of the following would meet the requirements with the least amount of operation overhead? Yeah. Oh. Whoa. Mm. Infrequent access. I think data archiving. Infrequent access, like putting something. Hmm. Financial reports that are not frequently accessed but should be immediately available. I should have read this. I should have read that. I could have got this correct. Okay, this is new information. I kind of took a guess on this one, but it's the only choice that made sense. Yeah, this is the standard protocol using origin of access control. Right, because the other ones didn't say gateway endpoint. I guess this one did. It was definitely between one of these, but I never heard of this rule before. This seems more standard. Use target tracking, yeah. I guess what simple scaling is. Ah. A financial application consists of an auto-scaling group of Amazon EC2 instances, an application load balancer, and MySQL RDS instance set up a multiple area zone configuration. To protect customers' confidential area, it must be ensured that Amazon RDS database is only accessible using an authentication token specific to the EC2. Right, we don't need to encrypt. We kind of need to add the MFA. Right, I didn't think it was this one. Wow, I kind of need to get this one. Okay. This one caught me off guard. Yeah, because it's on site. Spot instances? Yeah, because it's fault tolerant. It's super cheap. Yeah, it was between one of these two. But global is not needed because we're not making it global. Never said anything about that. Yeah. I answered this one by process of elimination just because the other ones didn't really make sense. Okay, cool. Let's go see what score I got again then. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and study this up. Actually, I'll study it on video, sure. Okay. Okay, let's see. A payment processing company plans to migrate its on-premise application to Amazon EC2 instance, and IPv6 CDR block is attached to the company's VPC. Strict security policy mandates that the production VPC must only allow outbound communication over IP6 between the instance and internet, but should prevent the internet from initiating an inbound. Okay. Damn. So also launch an EC2 using egress only firewall to set up their required wall. Traffic inspection. Damn, okay. An egress-only internet gateway is horizontally scaled, redundant, and highly available in the VPC content. Egress-only. I mean, I think it's outgoing. Outbound communication over IP6. Are globally unique, therefore public by default. But if you want your instance to be able to access the internet, but want to prevent resources on the internet from initiating communication from your instance, you can use egress only internet gateway. A subnet is a range of IP addresses in your VPC. You can launch AWS resources into a specified subnet. Use public subnet for resources that must be connected to the internet, and private subnet for resources that won't be connected to the internet. AWS Firewall is a managed service that makes it easy to deploy essential network protections for your Amazon VPC. The service can be set up with just a few clicks, automatically scales to your network traffic, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Okay. So AWS Network Firewall Stateful Firewall can incorporate context from traffic flows such as trafficking connections and protocol identification to enforce policies preventing from PVCs to accessing domains using unauthorized protocols. So the IPS provides active traffic flow inspections, so you could identify and block vulnerabilities exploits using signature-based deletion. The firewall manager also allows us to do web filtering to monitor the WAD URLs, the bad ones. So we could just use egress only. Okay, I want to know why we cannot use, no, I knew that one was not good. NAT gateway, let's see. Okay, so why can't we use this? This is incorrect. While NAT gateway has an NAT64 feature, which translates to an IPv6 address to IPv4, it will not prevent inbound traffic from reaching the EC2 instance. You have to use egress only internet gateway instead. AWS Firewall Manager. AWS Firewall Manager and AWS Network Firewall. Okay. only access, but the difference is the IP version and how they achieve it. Okay. So NAT gateway is IPv4 only, egress only is IPv6 only. Your EC2 has a private IPv4 network access translation, egress only internet gateway, IPv6. Every instance gets globally routable IPv6 access, so no net. We don't need a public IP. Actually, I don't know. What is that? Yeah, okay. Wow. Whoa. Okay. Okay. Okay, I get it. Egress. So when you see IPv6, you go ahead and use egress, not NAT. Okay, I get it now. Okay, let's see. A financial application consists of an auto-scaling group of Amazon EC2 instances, an application load balancer, and a MySQL instance So that with multiple area zone deployment configuration to protect customers' confidential data, it must be ensured that the Amazon RDS database is only accessible using authentication token to the profile credentials of EC2 instances. Okay. An IAM network authentication provides the following benefits. Network traffic to and from the database is encrypted using secure sockets layer, the SSL. Okay, you can use IAM to credentially manage your database instead of managing access individually for each instance. For applications running on EC2, you can use profile credentials to specify your EC2 instance to access your database instead of password or greater security. Configuring your SSL application to encrypt database, because SSL connection is not just using authentication quotient. So an EC2 instance will grant exclusive access. It's incorrect because although you can create and assign IAM role to your EC2 instance, you still need to configure your RDS to use the, okay. Wow. Has a role, okay. The role is allowed to connect to RDS. The app generates a temporary token in about 15 minutes that the token is used instead of a password. Does not control who can access the database. Yeah, that's what I thought. Create IAM role and assign it to EC2. A financial application consists of an application manager. It consists of an auto-scaling group of Amazon EC2 instances, a load balancer, and an RDS set up in multiple area zones. To protect their confidential area, it must be ensured that their database is inaccessible with authentication. Using a token. What? Mechanism that uses the identity. Okay. Okay, I guess that makes sense. All right, that's the end of the video. I passed the exam. There's a couple questions I kind of sped too quickly, and that's why I got it wrong. I think officially I got like a couple questions wrong. I'm not sure how many. I think 11 out of 15, so I got 4. I think 2 of those could have been avoided, but 2 of them I just didn't know just because I wasn't educated enough, I guess. And that's the end of the video. I'm gonna try to do more practice tests, try to get a good score, and go ahead and keep on practicing, then take the exam. Later.